Today we're going to talk to you about sciatica.
Yep.
So we're going to go through all the different reasons that people get sciatica, all the different causes, maybe a couple of solutions that you could do at home, and maybe a couple options if those solutions don't work for you.
Yeah.
If any of you have ever had any pain that ran down from your lower back into your leg, or even a pain that runs down your leg, if you throw us a comment in the section down there, we'd love to hear about all those symptoms that you've had. And if you found a solution for it, I'd love to hear about that too.
Yeah.
Right? Let's jump right in. Sciatica. It is not a condition, it is a symptom. Right? So it's going to be the irritation of the sciatic nerve.
Right.
And so it's a broad term category that fits the bill for any pain that starts in the lower back and goes down the leg. So a lot of times you'll show up at the urgent care, the ER, something like that, and you say, oh, it hurts somewhere in my lower back and it's running down my leg. The doctor's usually going to say, you have sciatica. It'll go away in a couple of weeks.
Right.
Don't worry about it. Sometimes they'll give you some meloxicam, Flexeril, so some muscle relaxers, a couple of anti-inflammatories, and hope that it just goes away on its own.
Yeah. And sometimes it does, right?
Oh, yeah.
So sometimes it does go away. But the thing about sciatica is that once it has reared its ugly head, it may calm down, but inevitably it comes back, and it comes back worse, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. So most people are going to have recurring symptoms.
Yep.
Over the years, generally they're just going to get more frequent and last longer.
Yep.
And that's usually an indication of some degenerative process that's happening in the background. Now, sciatica, there's probably a dozen or more reasons that we can get sciatica.
Oh, so I know. That's the reason so many people get sciatica. Because there's not like, oh, this caused it. It's not like one single thing. Usually it's a combination of several different things that came together in this beautiful, perfect storm that gave you sciatica.
Exactly. So we'll start at the top and I'll work our way down. So the sciatic nerve, it's an interesting nerve. I'm going to pick you up and we're going to show you a diagram over here. So we're going to come over here. So here is a picture of the nervous system within the human. The sciatic nerve is this nerve right here. So it comes from the lowest part of the lumbar spine. Different nerve roots come together to be one whole nerve that runs down the back side of the leg, goes underneath the muscle back here called the piriformis. It runs down next to the hamstrings all the way down to the bottom of the foot. So that's the sciatic nerve. Now, that's what's going to get inflamed or irritated. The sciatic nerve, from its origin to where it goes, it can get irritated anywhere in between. So we'll start at the top and work our way down. A lot of times when we see the sciatic nerve irritated, sometimes it's going to be a disc herniation. So in between the bones that make up the spine, we have cushions that we call disc. Sometimes that disc is going to come out and it's going to compress one of the nerve roots. And one of those nerve roots happens to be part of that sciatic nerve. A very interesting factoid about that. The cell that makes up this nerve is one cell all the way down to the bottom. So if it gets irritated here, the whole thing gets irritated. And that's why you'll get the tightness, the burning, all the pain all the way down
shooting.
the leg. Right? And a lot of times the irritation causes inflammation. That inflammation starts to cause those parts and pieces to stick to other things near it. Right? And so we'll have a lot of adhesions and scar tissue that form on the sciatic nerve all the way down the leg. What is the cell that makes up those nerves? It is a nerve cell. The body of the nerve typically is going to exist closest to the origin or where it goes in. All the way down at the end, we have all the receptors on the end, so the dendrites and the parts and pieces that we feel those chemical reactions that send an electrical signal back up that nerve, then go into the central nervous system, back up through the central nervous system to the brain where we can sense it and feel it. All right. So sometimes we'll get a disc herniation. The cushion in between the bone pushes out and crushes that nerve, compresses that nerve. That's what's going to give us that pain that runs down the leg. Generally, this one's going to be super painful in the lower back as well. So you're not going to show up and just say, oh, I feel something in my leg. My back hurts really, really bad, and I can't move. And every time I do move, it causes even more pain down my leg. Those are the most severe sciatic patients that we'll see that come in the door. Varying degrees of intensity, but generally those are going to be the most severe.
And It will also cause them other issues, like whenever they're sneezing, they will also have pain. Whenever they're trying to go to the restroom, they may also have pain, coughing, laughing, things like that. So this one is distinctly different.
Yeah. Unfortunately, there's not really a lot of home remedies that are going to make any difference for that.
Right. For this one specifically, you are going to have to seek outside treatment.
Yeah. Options for that are going to be anything from decompression, chiropractic therapies that'll open up that space, take the pressure off the nerve, steroid injections. Sometimes we'll do the injections near the disc compression or in the joint space for the disc compression, and that's going to give us reduced inflammation, which will take pressure off that nerve. Usually that's going to help to some degree,
right?
But it'll still break down over time.
Yeah, and it'll still come back. Steroid is just a temporary. It's just a Band-Aid, but whenever you are in excruciating pain like that, it's really helpful.
Sometimes you got to do what you got to do, right? Yeah. The other option that would be from that same origin is going to be a degeneration process. Same thing with a disc herniation. Once the bone stops moving the way it's supposed to, we start to develop osteoarthritis. That osteoarthritis can get to the point that where that nerve used to come out of the hole, like that nice big space cushion all around it, all of a sudden that hole is getting a whole lot smaller because those bone spurs are growing into that space.
Right. So now we've moved on. So now the disc has weathered down, and now we're talking about the bones and how the bones will affect that nerve.
And that'll compress that nerve that runs down the leg as well and give us those sciatica symptoms. Again, there's not a really good home solution for this one too. Generally, you're going to have to get it moving again, decompress it, or they'll do surgery in which they'll take pieces and parts of those bones to open up that space where the nerve comes out.
Yeah, if it's that bad.
Yeah. All right. Other common thing that we'll see, so even if you don't have a disc herniation, even if you don't have that degeneration process, sometimes we'll either injure a muscle or a ligament in one of those areas. We'll twist and pick up something that injures a muscle or ligament, and the body will get everything stuck out of place. So instead of being really flexible, movable, it'll get really stuck out of place. And you can imagine that makes that hole where the nerve comes out a whole lot smaller. The word that we give this is a subluxation. Medical terms, it's going to be a biomechanical lesion. But just that
spinal misalignment.
Just that bone being out of place causes inflammation and irritation, which starts to compress the nerve, and that's where we get the discomfort. Sometimes just stretching and getting that pressure off is going to help people. Sometimes it does take an adjustment or a manipulation. There's lots of different providers that can do that, that get that pressure off the nerve mechanically. And those tend to resolve much easier, have better results at the end. So that's one of the preferred ones that we like to see in the office. As we go down the nerve, or after all the nerves come together, they're going to go into the pelvis. When we're looking at the pelvis, it's those three bones again. So we have the two iliums on either side. We have the sacrum dead center. They all move with each other like this. Sometimes that sacrum is going to get twisted out, and it's going to cause a lot of irritation across the muscles that go across the back. And that's right exactly where that nerve comes down and goes through. That irritation can irritate the entire sciatic nerve. And that's where we'll get lots of the radiating, shooting pains that burn all the way down, but don't necessarily give us the numbness and tingling in the feet. That one, again, that's more that subluxation complex, so the bone that's stuck out of place. This one's usually going to be a slip and fall. So I slipped and I fell on one butt cheek a little harder than the other. I like to sit with my legs crossed all the time. I've been doing that for 20 years.
Or I sit on my wallet.
Yeah, the wallet's a really common one for men.
I know. I'm always telling them, hey, you got to move that.
Get that wallet out.
Yeah, pull the keys out, everything.
And so there's a couple of reasons that can happen, but usually it's some kind of trauma or some repetitive motion that we're doing that got the pelvis to twist, and that's compressing that nerve root at the bottom. The next one's going to be the piriformis. That usually ties into that pelvis not working the way it's supposed to. The piriformis muscle is a big muscle that goes across the hip into that sacrum area. Its primary job is to rotate the foot outward when we're walking, running, or doing something like that. Most of the time we don't use the piriformis much. It gets overused and overloaded when the pelvis starts to roll forward, when it gets stuck out of place. Our body will start to recruit it to move our leg. The vast majority of people, the sciatic nerve is going to run right underneath that muscle. And so if that muscle gets really swollen and irritated, it compresses that nerve, and that's where we'll get the piriformis induced sciatica. That vast majority of people, I say, have that nerve underneath that muscle. Some people actually have that nerve go through the muscle.
Yeah.
Some people have it go over the muscle. So everybody's a little bit different on that one, but the most common is going to be under that muscle.
Yeah, it's really incredible how the body is like so different in little bitty ways like that.
But so similar.
Right, so similar, but everyone is a little beautiful, wonderful snowflake.
Exactly. And that one's an easier fix. Usually if you can stretch the piriformis and that takes care of it, we're good to go. If it's persistent, it keeps coming back, there's some reason that piriformis is being irritated. Sometimes we got to go back another step and figure out why the piriformis is irritated. That's a whole nother story on the other side. The other thing is going to be some kind of hamstring issue. So sometimes the hamstrings will get inflamed or irritated. That nerve runs right between two of the hamstrings muscles. And so that'll start to irritate that sciatic nerve, and that'll give us problems that run down the leg. Generally, those people aren't going to have pain in their back. It's just going to start somewhere in their leg, and it's going to go down their leg.
Right.
That's a possibility for a lot of people. Again, sometimes stretching takes care of that one. It's a pretty easy fix for a lot of people. Sometimes, depending on how long it's been there, there's a lot of scar tissue that has to be taken care of, and that's the other side of the coin for those muscle-induced sciaticas.
Yeah.
Right. Obviously, trauma to the sciatic nerve is a possibility too.
Yeah.
So we think car accidents, slip and falls, actual blunt force trauma to the sciatic nerve, wherever it is, it can bruise it, and it causes irritation and sciatic symptoms that come afterwards. Weird situations. Some patients, they'll come in, they had an intramuscular shot, so they were getting a B12 injection or something like that. Accidentally, that needle hit the sciatic nerve, and that causes some irritation and damage to it. And some of those people, it always bothers them. It's always going to be a problem, depending on what they were injecting into the area. Once that happens, that's a pretty tough fix on those.
Yeah.
So that's the reason that a lot of sciatic symptoms will show up. There's always some underlying cause. There's always a reason that it's there. It's not just a random irritation of the sciatic nerve.
Also, poor posture, right? So legitimately just having poor posture will also cause this as well. But having poor posture leads into all these other things that we talked about, right? So like the spinal misalignment, and then the muscle tension. Also, it can lead into I lost it. I'm so sorry.
The spinal misalignments, the postural that lead into the subluxations, that lead into the degeneration. So it leads into the osteoarthritis, the degeneration. Part and parcel with the degeneration, that's when we start getting more and more of the disc herniations. So the random, I didn't hurt myself disc herniations, those will start to come into play. And overuse and underuse of muscles, that's definitely going to be part and parcel with the postural issues. Almost everybody that comes in here that has lower cross syndrome, so they've ended up with their head forward, their pelvis forward, it's lower cross syndrome, their piriformis is the only thing keeping them up in the back. Right, nothing else is working the way it's supposed to. So their hamstrings, their piriformis are just completely overworked, irritating the heck out of everything, and that's when we start getting problems with that sciatic nerve. Let's go through a simple stretch for the piriformis.
Sure.
An option if you do have that piriformis syndrome. These are the things that you can do at home. So if you do have some sciatica, you do have some problems, try these stretches out.
Right.
If it helps.
Simple, easy. You can do it at home. Might as well.
Yeah. And if it helps, great. If it doesn't quite do the job for you, if it helps a little bit, but then it keeps coming back, that's when somebody like us, so a chiropractor that does some physical medicine at the same time that they do the adjusting, they'll be very helpful for you. Orthopedics, they also know where they can get you to the right people. Physical therapists, they all know very good how to take care of these types of things. So if you can't fix it yourself, seek some help, right? Don't just go to the urgent care. They're going to not fix that problem.
Right. Yeah. It's just not, it's not what they're designed to do. They're there to like save your life.
Yeah. Make sure you don't die.
Right. Exactly. Sciatica is not
life-threatening.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'll have you, I'm going to flip the camera so you can show them my stretch. There we go. The piriformis stretch, the simplest and easiest way, especially if you're in a lot of pain, is going to be in a seated position. I want to have a relatively upright back. I don't want to be hunched over too much. So relatively upright. I'm just going to cross my leg. So I'm going to try and pick my leg up, right? And my knee is going to be really high to start. I'm going to make sure that I don't let my back roll forward. keep it nice and straight. I'm going to try and push my knee down just a little bit. I'm going to feel that pain, stretch pain. Right? It shouldn't be too intense, shouldn't be too painful, somewhere in my butt. So it's going to be deep in my butt, near my hip. Generally, when we're doing a stretch, we're going to try and hold a stretch for about 30 seconds. Right? We always want to do both sides, never do just one side. So even if you don't have pain on the other one, make sure you stretch that one too. 30 seconds, 3 times is usually a good number for most people. And just trying to push that knee down. If you can get your knee all the way to a 90 degree, right, and you don't feel any stretch or anything like that, start leaning forward just a little bit. Right? So if you lean forward, you can get a little bit more stretch in that lower back. And this is a great stretch for that piriformis. Do it consistently. So I would do it every day, especially if you have the sciatic symptoms, at least 3 times in a row. Okay. I'll switch out and we'll have Dr. J show us a QL stretch. So if that pain's coming from way high up in your lower back, we'll look at the QL stretch. So it's a pretty simple stretch that you can do.
So we're going to cross our leg over.
So the outside leg crosses over the foot.
And we're going to take a big stretch.
Reaching over. The stretch should be on that side that's on the outside. So we should feel it out here. And that's a good one for that. And this,
the QL actually attaches to your lumbar spine. And so as you're stretching that out, it can help relax all those muscles as well that might have gotten tight or had tension, or due to subluxation, poor posture, anything like that. You can always give it a good go and see if it's working for you. These in combination are really great. But once again, there's usually many different reasons, and they're layered on top of one another as to why someone would get sciatica. So you may get some relief, but not complete relief. So no, that could happen as well.
Awesome. All right, so that was us talking about sciatica today. If you have any very particular questions, if you have your own situation in which you're thinking, I saw somebody, but they couldn't help me, always shoot us a message. You can DM us through Facebook or Instagram. That's another easy way that you talk to us. I'm always answering those. So any questions you have, any issues, even if you don't live here, even if you're not a possibility of one of our patients, I'd be happy to have a conversation with you. Try and work through some things if we can. If you are here, right, and you needed a good chiropractor, well, we got you. Okay. Thanks for joining our live today. We'll see you guys next time.
See ya.